Let's talk about something you might be carrying right now in quiet. That heavy, confusing space when someone you care about goes silent. You notice it first in your routines. The phone doesn't light up. The day feels a little emptier. But somehow, in the back of your mind at 2 in the morning, they're still there. It's an uncomfortable truth, but one worth sitting with. Sometimes silence isn't what we assume it is. Sometimes it's the loudest signal of all. If you've ever blamed yourself for someone pulling away, I want you to pause right here. The story is rarely as simple as it looks on the surface. When a person retreats, it isn't always because they're bored or done. Often, it's because they're overwhelmed, because they felt something they didn't expect to feel, and it hit harder than they planned. In that moment, the safest thing they know is to step back. So what you're experiencing might not be rejection. It might be their attempt to regain emotional footing. I know that sounds backwards, but it's a layer of human psychology many of us never get taught. Think about it. When someone feels deeply, they don't always get louder. Sometimes they get quiet. They study you from a distance. They replay conversations. They overthink every signal, every text, every tone. They might even try to convince themselves they don't care as much as they do, because caring deeply means risking pain. So when they stop reaching out first, when the pattern you got used to suddenly breaks, your mind might jump to they've moved on. But in reality, they might be fighting themselves more than they're avoiding you. Their silence can be an attempt to escape their own vulnerability. They might worry they were too available. They might fear they were coming on too strong. They want connection, but they also want proof that you want it too, without them having to sacrifice their pride to chase it. That's the modern paradox. Thinking about someone constantly while working hard to make it seem like you're not. And here's something crucial. People often test with absence, not with words. They want to see if your interest holds steady when they aren't feeding it. They want to feel chosen, not just conveniently pursued. While you're wondering what you did wrong, they might be wondering if they mattered enough for you to notice they stepped back. They don't reach out because reaching out feels exposing. They imagine you'll think they're needy. They tell themselves, if they wanted to talk, they would. So you interpret their distance as disinterest, and they interpret your confusion as indifference. Two people thinking about each other, both stuck in the fear of making the first move. It's a painful standoff. What's worse is the missing that happens in secret. They check your profile. They reread old messages. They remember the sound of your voice. They wonder if you've replaced them. They imagine someone else getting the attention they once had. But they refuse to reach out, because protecting their heart feels more urgent than protecting the connection. I want you to hear this clearly. Just because someone is silent doesn't mean you're forgotten. We often assume distance means we've lost them, but sometimes distance means you've gotten under their skin so deeply that they're trying to regain control. People don't obsess over connections they don't care about. They don't replay conversations unless those words stirred something real. There's a strange but true dynamic here. When someone is thinking about you constantly, they won't always move toward you. Sometimes they'll move away, not because they want space, but because the depth of their own emotions scares them more than they'll ever admit. It's not about fear of losing you. It's often about fear of losing themselves in you. And when those feelings grow stronger than expected, the instinct is to pull back, to breathe, to analyze, to find balance again. So when the communication slows, it's not necessarily the end of their feelings. It might be the beginning of their battle with them. They replay moments you may have already forgotten. The way you looked at them, how you said their name, small compliments that seemed casual to you but echoed in their mind all day. When a connection feels real, it can be shaking. When it feels safe, they might fear losing it. When it feels good, they might question if they even deserve it. And instead of saying all that, they go quiet. Not because they don't care, but because they care too much to act casual. Their silence isn't empty. It's full of the things they're afraid to say, the what-ifs, the maybe they don't feel the same, the worry that they're imagining the chemistry. They'd often rather sit in silence than risk direct rejection. Pulling away becomes a shield, not because you're unworthy of their vulnerability, but because they're terrified of giving it to the wrong person. And here's something you might not notice. When they think about you all the time, they start testing themselves, not you. They ask, do I miss them or do I miss the attention? They try to distract themselves, talk to other people, turn off notifications, but when nothing pulls their mind away, that's when the silence deepens. That silence is their internal confession. This person is in my head, and I can't shake them. What's confusing is this. They might act distant, but they become more sensitive. They notice if you take longer to reply. They feel a sting if you don't engage with their posts. They read into your tone, analyze your words, wonder if someone else has your attention. They won't speak up, but they'll feel everything intensely. And if they sense you pulling back too, their heart tightens. They won't show it, but they'll worry they misplayed their silence. People don't fear losing connections that never mattered. They fear losing the one they didn't expect to matter so much. So while you're sitting there thinking they don't care, they might be wrestling with the possibility that they cared first, and that caring first can feel like handing over power they never meant to give. Their silence is a maze of fear, desire, confusion, pride, and hope. If you could see their thoughts in those quiet moments, you'd likely never misinterpret their distance again. Because while you might be doubting your worth, they're often doubting their courage. In many ways, their silence is their way of saying, "I feel something real, and I don't know how to handle it." There's something important to understand about someone who goes silent but can't stop thinking about you. Their mind becomes a battlefield. Every thought pulls them closer, and every fear pushes them away. They aren't avoiding you because they're done. They're avoiding you because you affect them more deeply than they expected. And that can be frightening, especially if the last time they felt this much, it ended in pain. When someone feels intensely, they often retreat to protect the parts of themselves that aren't fully healed yet. You might think they're ignoring you, but they're often analyzing everything, studying your patterns, noticing who you interact with, comparing your past behavior to your present, wondering if any change means they misstepped. Their distance isn't empty space, it's hidden observation. They're watching from behind a wall they built the moment their feelings became too real to manage comfortably. And here's the twist. The more they watch, the more attached they may become, even if they never send a single message. We often assume silence means indifference. But for many, silence is emotional overload. When they don't message you, it can be because their heart is too loud. They wonder if they made themselves too available. They question if you see them the way they see you. They picture you with someone else and hate that feeling, but keep it buried. They want you to notice their absence without feeling pressured. They hope you feel a little of the ache they feel, not because they want you to suffer, but because they want proof that they mattered. And here's a truth we don't say enough. When someone is truly done, they often become emotionally flat. No overthinking, no checking profiles, no jealousy, no hesitation. It's a clean, dull, empty exit. Silence from someone who doesn't care is cold. Silence from someone who cares too much is warm, shaky, emotional, and heavy. The difference? The one who cares still checks your activity. They remember your last conversation. They imagine what it would be like if you reached out first. That's the kind of silence they're drowning in, a silence that hurts them, too, even while they pretend it doesn't. Internally, they're rehearsing conversations they never send, typing messages and deleting them, telling themselves, if they wanted to talk, they would, while secretly hoping they're wrong. They want you to reach out, not because they can't, but because doing so themselves would expose how deeply you're under their skin. You don't see it, but they're fighting the urge daily, the urge to check on you, to ask how you are, to hear your voice. Each time they resist, it can feel like a small, private heartbreak. Their silence isn't necessarily losing interest. It's often losing control. It's not rejection, it's restraint. They're trying to protect their self-worth, their pride, their emotional safety, and the fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, you'll be the one to close the gap they're afraid to close themselves. The irony is, they might want you to act not because they're weak, but because they're tired of being the one who feels everything first. Here's what's rarely said. When someone is quiet, they're often the loudest inside. They're replaying every detail of your connection with a level of emotional sensitivity you might not even know you awakened. The more they try to ignore you, the more deeply they might feel you. Their silence isn't distance, it's pressure. It's the weight of feelings they can't comfortably carry, mixed with the fear that if they reach out and you don't respond how they hope, they'll break in a way they're not sure they can recover from. They might think you don't notice their absence. They might think you've moved on effortlessly while their own life pauses every time they wonder whether to message you. What they often don't realize is that their silence creates confusion, not because you're weak, but because clarity matters. You want to know where you stand. You want to understand what changed. But they don't speak up, not because they have nothing to say, but because they're terrified their truth will make them look vulnerable or needy. We all want to be wanted, but we're often afraid to show how much we want, too. That's why people sometimes get distant the moment they feel too attached. Attachment awakens insecurities. It brings past disappointments back to life. They wonder if they're being replaced, if they misread your interest, if they're enough. And then they might feel frustrated for even wondering. So instead of asking directly, they retreat to a quiet place to observe from a safe, emotional distance, hoping your actions will reveal what words haven't. What they're probably not telling you is that your silence hurts them, too. Every hour they wait for a message, they might tell themselves they're foolish for caring. Every time they see you active online but not talking to them, they might feel a sting they'll never admit. They don't show it, but they feel it. And the deeper their emotions, the more they might hide them. Pride is a powerful force. Many will suffer silently before risking emotional exposure. But here's the twist. Their withdrawal isn't punishment. It's fear. It's longing mixed with caution, desire mixed with doubt. They might want you to take the lead, not because they expect endless chasing, but because they need reassurance they aren't the only one feeling something scary. People often pull away because they want security, not space. And they might not reach out until they feel safe enough to do so. They want to know if you miss them, if they're still in your thoughts, if the connection meant to you what it meant to them. But they also want to protect their heart, because caring before the other person is ready has hurt them before. So they hide. They wait. They pretend to be unbothered. They tell themselves they'll forget you eventually, even when they know they won't. Not yet. Not while the thought of you still tightens their chest. Their silence is their shield. Their thoughts are where they hide the truth. And the truth is often simple. If they felt nothing, walking away would be effortless. But if they disappeared physically while holding on emotionally, it's because letting go of someone who matters rarely happens in an instant. There comes a point where we misread silence as the end of the story. We assume they're fine, moved on, indifferent. But here's what we rarely see. People rarely detach all at once. They disconnect slowly, in painful stages hidden from the world. When they stop reaching out but still think about you constantly, they're living in the tension between wanting you and trying to protect themselves from you. That tension is what keeps them awake at night. Even while you're trying to understand the shift, they didn't stop reaching out because you lost value. They might have stopped because the connection gained too much value, too fast, too intensely. Their heart whispers yes while their insecurities scream no. And instead of confessing that inner war, they hide behind silence, hoping distance brings clarity. But often, it doesn't. It only makes them miss you more deeply, more privately, more painfully. People don't stop thinking about those they pull away from. They just become experts at hiding the emotional storm behind a calm face. They wonder if you ever think about them, if you ever talk about them, if you ever reread old messages like they do. They want to know if those moments meant something real enough that you still feel the echo when they disappear, because they do. Their silence is full of longing, doubt, and unspoken hope that you'll prove they weren't the only one who felt that spark. What they often don't realize is that their silence affects you, too. You question your worth. You wonder what you did wrong. You ask if opening up was a mistake. And in that confusion, you both can fall into the same trap. Two people afraid to show they care first, waiting for the other to be brave, thinking about each other more than they'll ever say aloud. Their silence isn't rejection. It's fear wrapped in pride. It's care wrapped in caution. It's emotion wrapped in self-preservation. If they truly didn't care, detachment would be effortless. But when it isn't, when they think about you upon waking, while pretending to be busy, when a song remind them of you, when they imagine conversations they wish they had the courage to start, that's when you know the feeling is still alive. And yet they stay silent, believing that if you wanted them, you'd somehow know without a word. But here's the truth they might not see. Connection requires courage from both sides. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the only language intimacy truly understands. Sometimes the only thing standing between two people who belong in each other's lives is the fear that the other doesn't feel the same. They might not be reaching out, but they could still be thinking about you, wondering, hoping. Deep down, they might wish you knew how hard they're fighting the urge to break the silence. If this resonates with you, drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. Have you ever been on either side of this silent space? Your stories help build this community, so please share. Now, the question becomes yours to sit with. Not necessarily for them, but for you. If you knew they still thought about you every day, would you wait in silence? Or Or would you find a way to act? There's no universal answer, but there is power in understanding that silence isn't always an ending. Sometimes it's a strained, quiet plea for reassurance. Before we go deeper, if you're finding value in these insights, show some love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with a friend who might need to hear it today. Your support helps us keep these conversations going. Let's sit with this a little longer. Consider the weight of what isn't said, the memories that linger in the quiet, the hope that hides in the pause between messages. Human connection is fragile and fierce, terrifying and beautiful. We build walls not to keep people out, but to see who cares enough to gently find the door. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is not to storm the walls, but to whisper through them, to offer a thread of consistency, a signal of safe space, without demanding an immediate return. But that doesn't mean you wait forever without honoring your own peace. Understanding is not the same as self-abandonment. You can empathize with someone's silent struggle while also recognizing your need for clarity and reciprocity. Healthy connection is a bridge, not a one-way street. Their fear might explain their silence, but it doesn't obligate you to live indefinitely in uncertainty. What do you think? Is there a point where understanding turns into overgiving? Let's discuss in the comments. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the unspoken layers of human behavior and relationships. So where does that leave you? With a choice informed by nuance. You can choose to extend a gentle, no-pressure invitation, a simple, honest expression of what you feel or notice, leaving room for them to respond without coercion. Something that doesn't demand, but simply states. Or you can choose to match their energy, focus on your own path, and release the need to decode what isn't being shown. Either way, the goal is peace. The goal is to act from a place of self-respect, whether that means reaching out once with clarity or letting go with grace. Remember, the right connections won't leave you perpetually in the dark. They might move through seasons of quiet, but they also find their way back to light, to communication, to mutual effort. Trust that. And in the meantime, don't let someone's silent battle make you question your worth. You are worthy of clear affection, of chosen presence, of a love that is brave enough to speak its name. If this message helped reframe a situation for you today, please let me know. Your feedback is everything. Share this video with someone who's trying to read between the lines of silence right now. And as always, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss these conversations. The most powerful thing you can do is to hold both truths. Their silence might be a storm of feeling, not a lack of it, and you deserve a connection that eventually finds its voice. Now, I pass the mic to you. What's one insight you're taking away from this? Drop it in the comments below. Let's talk.